Welcome to TruthStream. Tonight we're joined by Nick Sylvester, a gentleman that we met on the Truth Tour in Anaheim. How are you doing this evening, Dick?
I'm doing great. Pleasure to see you guys.
You as well.
Look forward to talking.
Great. Well, do you want to give us sort of a 30,000-foot view of where you think we're at the moment, and then we'll drill down into some more detailed information?
I could do that. I could try to do that. Unfortunately, I think that we're sort of at the point in the ball game where most of the intel is gone. There is no more. We're at the jumping off point. You know, where we are is, will we or will we not have the election? These next 8 days are going to be very, very important to sort of tell us how this is going to look. For instance, I believe that there's less than a 50% chance we're going to have the election. I don't think that we should have the election. I would prefer not to have the election, but there is a possibility that the powers that be feel that it may help them some in this process. Whether or not that's the case, I don't know. If we do have the election, I fear that this entire process or the end of this movie could easily be delayed longer than we might like. Okay. That's my feeling. I'm hoping we don't have it. I'm hoping that we have some moments in these next 8 days that sort of show us that we're ready to have the end of the movie. There's troops in Brazil. There's troops in DC. There's troops sprinkled all over the world that are being shown by different entities, boots on the ground, different truthers. They're out there. National Guard and other. So I believe people are in place for something to jump off for this end movie, whatever you want to call it, the grand finale kind of thing. None of us know exactly what that's going to be. It'll probably be multiple things, but let's just say it was a World War III event, nuclear war. So I think we're positioned for it. I think everything is in place. And I think this is a moving target. I think that the alliance is gauging every moment of every day where we stand. Will this election help the cause? Will it not? What'll happen if this? What'll happen if that? So I think it's game time decision, you guys. And that's the best I can do on the end of the movie bit.
Well, I think we've all heard at one point or another that we're waiting on a real specific percentage of people that are awake, and that number being somewhere around 80%. And it sounds like we're there. Looks like we're there. The conversations that I have with, with normie friends and so on seem to be a little bit different than they were a month or two ago. So that and with what's heating up in Ukraine and just tensions all around the world, China poised to make a move on Taiwan. A lot of different directions this could go.
Everything, like I said, everything is in place. Everything is in position. The Ukraine conflict it will end as soon as somebody announces it's over. Okay, they're already rebuilding. The Russians are already in the process of rebuilding the things that were damaged. Okay. What's in the news is not what's going on now. We're about a year ahead. The news you see is about a year old. I've already been told that there are new maps of Europe out printed with the new Ukraine and how some of it has been absorbed by Russia, Poland, and so on. How the new Ukraine is much smaller than it is now. Everything is basically ready to go. It's just a matter of sounding the starting gun or whatever, and that's about it. So It's just it's a very, very interesting time, and there's a lot of things involved and a lot of groups involved in coming together to make this decision. You know what I mean? It's a big decision. It really is.
Right.
We have like one shot at this.
Right. Yeah, and you know, it's been amazing meeting people at the Truth Tour in Anaheim, especially because just the camaraderie that we had, and meeting people such as yourself and so many of the other amazing folks that we've met. But what was interesting about you was when you were speaking, the intel that you've been privy to. Can you share a little bit about some of your sources or how you've been able to get some of this amazing information that you're sharing with people, and so the viewers know? Because you know, I tell a lot of people I've met amazing folks, and you know, I try to get my information through sources that are obviously not mainstream but more military based. So I'm sure that people would love to hear that.
Yeah, you know what? This is an important little bit. This is really especially here and now. Okay, and I want to sort of elaborate a little bit why, the reason that this question that Joe asked is really important. Okay, first thing, I want to start off this by saying that these two guys, Scott and Joe, are unbelievable. When I met them in LA, they jumped off as being so much more humble, so much more they just wanted to know everything. They didn't put up that front like everybody else. Oh, no, we know, we don't need, we know it all, you know. And that humble yearning for knowledge is what we all need. And you know why? The most knowledgeable person in this group doesn't know shit compared to what's out there. Okay, see, that's what happens. The more you learn, the more you realize how little you know. Now, this is the reason it's so important, and this is where people will struggle. All right, it is the learning the difference between knowing and believing. Okay, this is a massive hurdle that we're facing on the planet with the normies, but even more so, in my opinion, with the truthers. The truthers have been relatively ununified, somewhat separated, not by choice so much, but by ability to comprehend or understand certain things in this movement, understand where intel is coming from. Okay, now, and here's why: the difference between believing and knowing. See, a great deal of the planet thinks that there's a lot of information that you can't possibly know. You just either believe it or you don't believe it. Who should I believe? This guy, this guy, this guy. Most of the advanced information is not from on planet. And the more people will understand and accept that all of this it is a soul progression. Okay, it is a progression from third density to fourth density beings. All of us are souls. Okay, all of us are at different levels of progression, different levels of consciousness, different levels of vibration. All of us hear these things. A lot of us will poo-poo it. Oh, that's just, you know, this isn't about any of that, but it is. And as time passes, every one of us will experience this, every single one of us, but we're all at different levels right now. None of that's good. None of it's bad. Okay, just because you're at a point in your soul progression where you still have a lot of filters, a lot of distortions, a lot of programming that keeps you from being able to access this advanced information, you know, it's going to be tough. You got to ask people stuff and then hope you believe them, or hope they don't lie to you. But as you progress, you begin removing distortions, filters, and you have a direct contact with your higher self or your intuition or your discernment. They're all the same thing. Okay. In addition to this, you start to be able to ascertain contacts with people higher up in the echelon, such as some of the ascended masters that are here on the earth, the group in the Q team, the quantum team that has now been backed into the Space Force. And they're all sort of one thing now. The Alliance, the Earth Alliance, the Space Force, the Q team, military intel, it's virtually all synonymous. They're all working hand in hand. So within Q, there are a lot of military intelligence, naval intelligence, active. Some are retired. But keep this in mind. There are also extraterrestrials that operate in the quantum team. In addition, there are normal humans that have ascended already. Their path has happened before most of all of us. Okay, memories, codes, memories of past lives have all come back. Knowledge from the Akashic records have all come back. And when you reach that level, you're able to communicate with higher levels of beings. Palladians, they're heavily involved. The Andromedans are heavily involved. Alpha Centaurians are heavily involved. These groups that, see, they've been through this before. They've assisted other planets in this exact same liberation, okay, over millions and millions and millions of years, okay? Use your discernment. If you don't want to believe me, then don't. It's free will, it's free choice. Everything I'm telling you will be true. None of it will be speculation. None of it will be opinion, okay? It will all be fact. And yes, there will be a time when you'll be able to know for a fact these things are happening. And as I progressed, I started being able to speak to some of these individuals. They just showed up and they said, basically, you're ready now. Now you're part of this group. So, long story short, that's kind of how it works. And the sooner people are willing to look at the material, look at the evidence, look at the stuff that some of us put out. Okay, some of it may not resonate. You may not buy it. You may not understand. How is that possible? I get it. I was there too. Okay, I was there too a few years ago. I just couldn't comprehend certain things, but now I can. Okay. So anyway, that's sort of like a little snapshot of how that kind of thing works.
Yeah,
Feel free to ask anything in more detail, though.
Yeah, well, it's really new to me. I'm open to it, and the more people that I meet, and that's part of why we do this show, because Scott's talked to me about certain things that I've never heard anyone else talk about, and now meeting you guys and meeting Katie, it's been mind opening. But I'm just trying to think of people like, let's say my mom is watching this, right? And she's just gonna be like, her mouth's gonna be open and her jaw dropped, and she's getting a little bit more open to certain things. She's always looked up at the stars and wanted to know more and maybe travel. But it's just, I'm the newbie to this. And so it's cool for me to become more aware and more awake to learning about this, when a few years ago I was like, what the hell are you guys talking? I mean, I just didn't know. So it's really cool to hear that. And so anyway, Scott, please go ahead.
I don't think you can call yourself new at all. It's been a few years now, and you went headlong into this information.
Yeah, well, just as far as like learning that there's off-worlders, more involved and stuff like that, that's still newer for me to wrap my head around. I mean, I've never not that I know of, had any experiences like that, but maybe this is part of the process where I'm getting a little bit more privy to it so that I can be at that point. So,
Well, I'll give you a brief example. I think I might have told you, guys, at the conference briefly, but we were briefed on what was going to happen at the conference almost a week prior to going by a member of the Q team. Myself, Katie Rain, Jason Reed wasn't there. He doesn't really do the conferences, but he's in direct contact and has been in direct contact with a member of the Q team that we call Shooter. He calls Shooter. It's not his real name. We can't give his real name.
right.
So he's been getting detailed information from them for a year and a half because of his level of ascension, his soul level of ascension. Just like myself, since he's been this big, he's been involved. He's known most of these things to be true. Not the details, not the ins and outs, but we've always known. We've always known that we were not from here. You know, we did not feel like we belonged here. So, you know, but let's see now. Where was I going with this? I forgot.
Well, there were some pretty interesting folks that made themselves available to you, and I'd love to hear a more detailed explanation as to how that
Right.
happened.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, son. Sorry, I have an itch on the middle of my back. But
Oh,
no. So anyway, Shooter, he told us before we went. He goes, there will be multiple infiltrators there. He said it will be planned. He said there may be 3, 4, 5 different infiltrators. He said that there will be absolute conflict, and he says it will get to a point where it may become up to becoming physical, like a physical fight. And he said that people will pick sides. He also said that we'd meet an off-worlder there, and I think we did. I mean, the guy was strange as can be. So all of these things we already knew, and there was a few other little things that I don't really want to get into that were more personal that we were able to see as well. And like I said, how do these people know this? Well, because this is a temporal war. This is a war of traveling forward and backwards in time, testing different things in different timelines. It's a very, very complex operation that's been going on for a few decades. You know what I mean? People simply cannot comprehend, nor can I, the complexity and the level that we're discussing and going on with this. You know, you got to understand that humans have been around for a few thousand years, basically, the way we are. A few thousand years, we're talking about dealing with races that have been around for tens and hundreds of millions of years. Okay. So a factor of a huge amount, a massive difference in consciousness. Forget about the technology for now. They don't need technology anymore. They're able to do anything that we can imagine simply with their minds. And there are people on this planet that can do similar things. Believe me, I've seen some things I'm not going to get into. I really can't, but I know for a fact that that is the case.
is that for the good? Is that for good or bad or both?
Well, it's for the good. That's where we're all going.
Right.
We have 9 senses. We only use 5 of them. We have 12 strands of DNA. We only use 2 of them for the most part. Some of us are getting into another strand or 2, but all of this is simply about human ascension. All of this is about the transferring of the earth from a 3rd to a 4th density being. Yes, the earth is a being. It is an entity. It is a being. It is a consciousness. We've reached the point in the earth's progression where it no longer vibrates at a 3rd density vibration level. Okay, it vibrates faster now. we must in turn match that vibration to be able to really survive. And this is the process we're in. We're in the latter stage of this transformation. And it has to do with where we are in the galaxy, where we are in the universe, the different levels of energy. Everything is energy. All right. Everything we're going through is for a much, much greater reason than 99.999% of the people really will accept. And that's okay, because they're simply not quite there yet. This just has to happen now because of the cosmic timing of everything. And the ending is not for everyone, just like you've heard many times with Q posts.
What does that mean to you?
Well, you know, this piece never sounds good. And the reason is it's just, if you're not at that level, you simply won't grasp it. People are losing family members. It's all about soul progression. Not everybody on the planet is going to survive. But that's okay, because they'll have another life. They'll have another opportunity to do this again, and learn more and more and more. According to a lot of readings and a lot of the higher ups I talk to, people will, you know, let's say if somebody dies and they haven't gotten to the ascension level, they haven't gotten to where we are, they will actually reincarnate on another planet in another part of the galaxy. That is a planet of third density, because we've gone to fourth. That's what this is all about. The people that have been able to accept this ascension, who have been able to accept these light codes and the vibrations, and they're starting to catch on to all of this, they will follow the planet and stay on this planet, and they will live their life here. If and when they die, they will reincarnate here again, you see, because it's a fourth density planet. They made the jump to fourth density human, and so on and so forth. That's just how it works.
Wow.
Your audio just changed, just so you know. I don't know if you lost your mic.
No, Mike.
No, he's good.
No mic. Oh.
No,
No.
you're good. You're good. So,
I just used the mic on here.
So I think, yeah, well, I was going to say that, you know, part of why I've delved into this so much is, you know, learning about how when we pass that we are reincarnated, but then what's been happening to humanity is that we lose our memory and we come back, and then we have to start over again to some extent. And I really don't want to go through all this to then have to come back and figure this shit out again. So that's why I've delved into this so much. So is that something you could elaborate on? Like that's hopefully what we're going to not have to do anymore for those of us that are aware of this?
Yeah, I can elaborate pretty much as well as anybody on this topic. There's a great deal in the Law of One about this, and what's taken place over the last several thousand years is the cabal, however you want to call them, whatever period in history, you know, that has been helped by the malevolent ETs, be it the Anunnaki, the Orion, the reptilian, you know, a mixture of many. Doesn't matter. They've done a lot of things to keep this process repeating, because that's what they want. They have reduced the average life expectancy in human. It really did used to be almost 1,000 years. It really did. The Bible is not making stuff up. You know, it's real years, real lives. The human body was designed to live approximately 1,000 years. Now, understand, through all of this negativity, the negative energy, the negative frequencies they pump in, the wars, the constant created diseases, the strife, the hunger, the famine, the pestilence,
All of these things were artificially created by, we'll just call them the bad guys, because there's a lot of groups.
Sure.
All of these over a period of thousands and thousands of years have greatly reduced our average age from 1,000 down to, well, say 100. Now, what happens here? What happens to soul progression is we live a perpetual cycle of spiritual infancy. According to the law of one, according to many, many extraterrestrial beings, it takes at least 150 to 200 years for a being to really start understanding his own spirituality. You understand? We die before we even get started. By design. By design. Not to mention that the Orions built something called a soul trap in the moon, which kept us another perpetual, die, come back, die, come back, die, come back forever, because they want our energy. They want us to be slaves, plain and simple. So yes, that is how it works. Luckily, we have had a great deal of help from the ETs. They have been, not only have they deprogrammed, removed, destroyed all of the under earth satellites, pumping frequency up, the thousands of orbiting satellites, pumping frequency down, sound frequency, light frequency, vibration, all of this to keep our vibration low, to keep us dumbed down, okay? Not to mention things like the net around the planet, the filter in front of the sun. There are so many things that they've done to keep us from getting, the proper codes, the proper light from the sun, things like that. They put filters in front of it. They did a lot of things to keep us prisoner, I guess, so to speak. So right now we are experiencing a great deal of ascension, where the good guys have reversed all of it, and they're doing the opposite. We're getting constant codes, downloads as fast as we as humans can really handle it. And like I said, we have a time limit here. This can't go on forever. However many people make it in this go round, make it. The other ones don't. And that's just the way it works. And like I said, it's not a bad thing. People die every day. They always have. So that is the kind of best thing, the best way I can describe it. And after you graduate from third density, from then on out, you retain your memories. You live a great deal longer. It's no longer this toiling, this grind. This third density was designed for us to find our ego, basically to learn who we are and create an ego, then balance our ego, and then learn how to release our ego prior to ascension into the vibration of love. That's the fourth density. It's love. The heart chakra, the green energy center. That is all we're doing. It's simply a stepping stone, a process in the line of life of a soul. So that's kind of a little bit how it works.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm a little curious. So a few weeks back, we had something kind of interesting happen. In as far as I've been paying attention, the Schumann resonance has always been, pretty consistent. In the last couple of years, it went from, I think it was in the 7 to 9 average area for most of our lifetimes. Then we started to see it spike and then start hovering in the 20s. And then for a period of, I think it was 9 days, it just dropped out completely. There was no measurable Schumann resonance. And I don't know, I'm puzzled by it. I'm wondering if there's any kind of significance you may be aware of as to why that may have happened.
Well,
most people that are involved in this part of it don't really put a lot of faith in the Schumann resonance as sort of a kind of a human measurement. It's, not terribly
helpful. It's not terribly. I mean, people are going to disagree. Let them. But it's not really a cosmic measurement. The truth of the matter is the truth. The Earth has been experiencing very, very similar, very constant bombardment of light energy for a long period of time. Over the last few years, it has greatly increased because of what we already talked about so far tonight, including the sun, including them tampering with our use of the sun. That is why it's much whiter than anyone can ever remember. We all remember it was yellow, don't we? We used to draw pictures of it when we were kids. The lemon yellow sun. Well, it isn't yellow, it's white, and you can see that now. The filters have been removed, and the energy is simply stronger. There is more light being forced in every chemical body that's on this planet. Every piece of matter, that's all we are. We are simply how much light is within the atoms that vibrate and how fast do they vibrate. That's basically what we are. And as you ascend and go into higher density, more and more light energy is forced into these atoms that we're made up of, and things that are considerably smaller than atoms. Basically, we're just electrical light vibration. That's what we are. And there is in a lot of the quantum physics calculations and the metaphysical experiments, they find that well, the larger an object, imagine an object of energy, just pure energy. If it gets large enough, if it gets strong enough, we're told, we've learned that it develops a consciousness. And that is kind of basically the genesis of all of this. And the larger and the stronger this ball of energy is, the larger and more powerful its consciousness is. Religion will not like to hear that, but that is basically what the creator is. An absolutely enormous, vast ball of consciousness energy. And we are all pieces of that. And we all have pieces of God right here inside. Yes, it is biblical, but it is also cosmic, and it is also human, and it is also military and geopolitical. It's all of it. It's all the same thing. And people have to start understanding that it's one thing. It is not, well, it's this. No, it's this. No, it's this. No, it's that. Same thing with religion. Christianity, Muslim, yay, Buddhism, yeah. It's all the same flippin' thing. We're all the same person. We're all the same piece of energy. It's all one. That's what the law of one is. That's what all beings believe in. They don't believe in it. They know it to be fact. Okay. So, it can be very simple or it can be very complex.
Well, that brings me to time. And I've always had kind of an odd relationship with time. And the idea of linear time being, a kind of a 3D construct is intriguing to me. But most everyone I talk to from any different corner of the consciousness or whatnot, they're all saying time's behaving differently. A day feels like it's over in 4 hours often to a lot of folks. Things are just moving at a different pace, and most everyone I talk to is having a hard time wrapping their head around it. You want to elucidate that a little bit, or?
Well, Scott, I don't know. I truly have not heard that. Other than the fact that, yes, everything is accelerating at a rapid rate. Our timelines, our ascension, the energy flow, that will by nature speed up the conception of time. But the problem is time is a human construct. It exists here, but it doesn't exist anywhere else. So, it's hard to put a finger on because of that. And before long, it won't matter nearly as much as it does now. It was a cabal created thing, just like, clocks, calendars, all of that. Out there isn't time. That's why it's not linear. How can it be linear if it doesn't exist? Time, space, time. It was interesting. Somewhere, I don't believe I remember where, but Ra was explaining the shape of the Earth, and he very interestingly explained the shape of the Earth is dependent on the perspective of one's looking. To a second density, to say like a bug or an animal, it's absolutely flat. For a third density human, he said it's absolutely round, spherical. To a fourth and fifth density being or entity, it's just snapshots in different times. I know it's very metaphysical. It's very difficult to really grasp, and some of it right here and now simply don't matter. Just like, do we really need to know about the multiverse? Do we really need to know if there are 12 universes or 13? Do we need to argue about those facts? We really don't. They will not become relevant for probably millions, if not billions of years. Okay. So we have enough to worry about right now. We shouldn't be worried about too much of the minutia and too much of the craziness of the size of the cosmos and how many densities are there and how many dimensions and how many universes. It's all interesting, but it shouldn't be where we argue amongst each other. So it's kind of hard to explain, and sometimes I don't like to get too far in depth on that type of topic, if that makes any sense.
Sure, it does.
Yeah.
Can you, for people that are new to this, and even if we know some, what would you say the primary role or roles of Space Force truly is?
Well, I can tell you exactly what their role is.
Okay, that'd be great.
In the beginning, look, we've been working with ETs actively since the 30s. Unfortunately, the Nazis were the ones starting. But in our current, industrialized world, I mean, they've been here since the beginning of time, but they were more like gods to us. They were gods. We thought, we didn't know. But since the 30s, we've been working with ETs. And well, the Nazis basically never lost the war. The Germans lost the war. The people lost the war. Nazis didn't. The Nazis worked with the reptilians and the Orion Greys. They were ordered to publicly lose the war, plain and simple. If they wanted to, they would have won the war. They could have. But in the early 40s, they started moving all of their stuff to Antarctica, to Argentina, spreading everything. They pulled back all of their stuff, all of their artillery, all of their troops. They could have won. They were told by the reptilians, if you want to work with us and get this ET technology we've been working on since 33, maybe 32, you must publicly lose the war. You must be invisible in order to take over the world. And that's what they wanted. So long story short, that's what they did. You know, everyone thinks that we won the war. Operation Paperclip happens. All of the smart Nazis get put in all these important places all over the world, in the United States, and yes, in Russia. The Nazis were. So then what started happening is a very, very, very slow takeover of the of the Illuminati, the cabal, a very, very small takeover. The banking world, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. And I'm getting to your question kind of like
Sure.
the long way. So shortly after Kennedy, the quantum team, let's say the White Hats, they started becoming something. They started becoming, seeing what's going on in the military industrial complex. They're taking over. We need to maybe look into doing something. They started getting together. They started building up troops. Reagan time, they're getting a little stronger. Not until probably 9/11 did the White Hats get strong enough to beat anything. But right about then they did. And they started building up strength behind the scenes. But what actually took place is during, let's say the early, let's say the Obama years, the White Hats were in full operation. Okay, they were talking with the Galactics. The Galactics had chosen Donald Trump to be president long before he stepped into the arena, because they knew who he was. They knew who his soul was. And it is a very important, if not angelic, soul, a very high level soul that was placed in his physical body. Do you understand what I'm saying? But he never knew this. It took him till he was about 72 to realize who he really was. Melania's involved.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, they know everything. They know who everyone is when we're born.
So he wasn't privy to this until somewhat recently, really.
I think it was somewhere around the first or second year of his presidency. I don't know, but it was in there somewhere. Melania was involved. Melania is an ET soul in a human body. I believe Palladian. I could be wrong, but I think so. She was put in place to activate him for this very purpose.
Wow.
And again, I don't really care if anyone believes it. Use your discernment. If it sounds like it could be true, look into it. Anyway, so this is a very long plan, you guys. So what is actually taking place is we're going from a second level civilization to a third level cosmic civilization. Okay. First level is primitive. Second level is industrialized, like but we have no space capabilities. Okay. Space transit, space, business, whatever. There's a shitload of space, transportation, industrialization, transporting goods and services from planet to planet. It goes on. It's like, it's like our trucking industry, and it goes on out there in the solar system, and most of it happens behind Jupiter. There's an enormous portal, an interstellar space transport portal, and we're talking about tens of thousands of ships are in and out of there on a weekly basis. It's a little bit locked down now because of what's going on, but anyway. So long story short, the Galactic Federation said in order for us to become a third level civilization, We must be able to protect our own planet. In order to become part of the Federation, we had to have a force that was capable, with their help, to be able to guard and protect our own part of the solar system, our own planetary area. That is the sole purpose of the Space Force. And it is a global force. It is comprised originally of 14 spacefaring nations. It was whittled down. You know, they're all involved, but it was whittled down to 5, then 3 as far as controlling. And we, as the United States, were chosen as the controlling entity of the global Space Force, which it is. So that's kind of how that goes.
Well, that's pretty fascinating. Thanks for clarifying some of that. Wow.
Anything, like I said, I probably have a answer to almost every question, just because of the bank of knowledge that I have access to. You know, it's not me. I mean, I'm nobody special, but that's what people have to try to understand. Over many, 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 many years, you tend to meet people, and then they may trust you and say, hey, you got to meet this guy. He's a little bit, and so on and so forth. And over the years, and as you ascend and as you start to get it, you start to meet more and more secretive people. Like, for instance, today, I had a long conversation with an ex-NSA, CIA, other 3-letter agency person who recently quit. She was recently recruited by members of the Galactic Federation, and they came on planet and did a full-on interview with her because of her soul, who she really is. And she's just now learning. See, she doesn't know who she is, but they know who she is.
Right.
And the things, you know, and you just, they send people to you. They send people. And next thing you know, somebody calls me. Who are you? Oh, well, I'm this person. They said to call you. And that kind of thing happens. Okay. I don't know how else to explain it. And you know, the same thing with Katie Rain. Katie Rain was not public at all. She was a normal person. She never spoke a word to anybody. And somehow her name got sent to me from Mexico through Huna, through Dave Mahoney. And Dave calls me from a thing saying, you know, I met some girl, some, you know, young woman. And he goes, remember you telling me about those space arcs and spaceships and all that shit? Well, she says she flies one of them. And he kind of laughed.
And I said, I need her phone number. I need you to give me that phone number. Because something inside me just went, that's something, that's something, that's something.
Yeah.
It took him like a month, but I finally got his phone number, and I called her, and I said, she told me her story, and it was unbelievable. It was the same story you guys know. And I go, Katie, what are you doing? You haven't spoke there. You haven't done a video. What's going on? I go, when is your mission, you know, going to start? When are you going to talk to people? And she goes, well, I was waiting for you to call. Just like that.
Wow.
Because
somehow her Andromedan
contact somehow said, you will know the moment you are supposed to become public and start your mission. And when I called, she was told, it is now. And we started doing videos. I introduced her to a whole bunch of people, and
the rest is history. So those things happen just like that.
You don't have to be some Juan O Savin. You don't have to be, you know, some big shot, you know, General Flynn or Charlie. It doesn't matter. See, the Galactics don't like that. They want very much for people to be humble, like you guys. You guys
are the kind of people who are going to be asked to rebuild this world. This is just the shitty part we're going through, man. I mean,
once we're over this hump, there's going to be humanitarian projects are going to be all over the world for the next, I don't know, 100 years. And you guys are going to be the ones trusted to do them because of your humbleness, because of your lack of ego, lack of greed, lack of pride. I mean, we all have some. We're human, right? But we have to know how to balance it. That's the trick. And there's a lot of patriots, and I'm saying it. I said it at the convention, and I'm going to say it now. Don't get mad, but there's a lot of patriots that are in it for themselves. They're in it to sell books, to sell courses, to sell t-shirts, to become famous, to get views, to, it goes on and on and on. And to a certain extent, it's okay. I am not a judge or a jury. I am not here to convict anyone of anything. But what I am here to do, and I've been asked by members of the quantum team, who is now part of the Space Force, to please back away from that kind of stuff a little bit, because you will not be allowed to continue this process. Okay? Several have been deplatformed behind the scenes. Please, just try to work on that, you know, and sometimes you don't even think about it, you know, it's just normal. It's normal commerce and normal matrix, and I get it, but try real hard to be humble, get rid of the ego, don't try to be the big shot, and just bring what you got. Whatever you know, try to bring it and say it, and don't be scared to say it, because maybe your viewers might not like you anymore. They may think you're crazy, or your viewership may go from 50,000 down to 40,000. And you guys understand. I know you understand, because you walk the walk and talk the talk. You guys are good guys, and I like you a lot.
Thanks.
I appreciate, yeah, we, you know, as long as we have heat and a roof over our head and food and we're helping people, that's the whole reason we got into this. We just want to help people understand. And there's no ego at all. In fact, you know, I mean, for me personally, I just, you know, my dad, who was a pharmacist, and I just thought, you know, when I started learning about the truth, I just need to go tell everybody. And Scott said, hey, you know, you might want to curtail some of that. And so it has been a bit of a challenge, but you know, I'm just here to help without an ego, to get great guests on, to help people look at things in a different way and to understand our world. And, you know, I've been an outdoor ed instructor for at-risk youth. I'm an older brother. I'm an uncle. I just want to be a source to help my, you know, friends and family and nieces and nephews understand what's coming. And that's why I'm even doing this. And it's amazing. I'll tell you what's amazing to do it. I couldn't be doing it by myself, because I wouldn't even be having these conversations if I didn't have a friend like Scott. I mean, he's been the backbone of me having, you know, the courage to really get out there, because I could who else gets to talk to someone like this for the last couple of years? I mean, a lot of these truthers, they haven't had a real physical personal friend that they've known for decades. I mean, it's been amazing. I mean, I love this guy. It's amazing that we get to do this as a team. I mean, we've made films and you know, music videos, but you know, sometimes those projects they take, you know, a lot of moving parts, but this, we can open up the computer, get the lighting right, the camera, and we're still learning. We're not perfect, and we can have a conversation that's more powerful than, you know, making a 90-minute film that costs millions of dollars. I mean, this conversation is phenomenal. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And the information that's out there is absolute shit. You know, I mean, we've all been trained to look to the media. You know, people still ask the question, and it cracks me up every time. What's your source? As if there's a credible source. And I usually ask them, I'm like, well, you tell me what a credible source is, and I'll start paying attention. And they all
Those are
don't,
the
they don't
furthest
have one anymore.
behind. The furthest behind, Scott, will be the ones that say, what's your source? You know, you show me proof, and
It's
then
right
I'm gonna
here.
Like, look, man, I don't owe you shit. I'm not going to show you anything because I don't care if you believe or not. We're
Right.
at that stage.
Yeah.
Just you guys need to know. You need to know, and so well, everyone needs to know. The Alliance, the Space Force, the Quantum Team, the the Galactics. The Galactics not as much. They're just like angelic. It doesn't seem like they ever get mad. But the groups are getting sick and tired. They are sick and tired of people not progressing. Okay, we have a lot of truthers, a lot of patriots. The ones who aren't behind the camera, but who listen to the camera. Like your viewers or whoever's viewers that aren't progressing. They just listen to the same rhetoric, the same dogma, kicking the same dead horse about COVID, about the election. They really, really were hoping that all of us would progress through this, but a lot of us aren't. We're wanting to hang on to the same little niche that we feel comfortable with, and we're not gonna look past the election or the COVID. We don't even want to think about spiritual and cosmic because that can't be true. They're upset with it. They're frustrated with it. They're tired of the bullshit. And like Shooter says, unfortunately, those people are going to get a cosmic 2x4 across the back of the head.
Wow.
Yeah, I can see that.
And that's word for word. And he said it many times, and he says it's around the corner. And gosh darn it, it is certainly not a threat. And it's not, I mean, it's been almost 3 years, man. We should have progressed more as a group of truthers, patriots. We should have, in my opinion, and their opinion. I mean, we're at the end of the show, and some of us don't know any more than at the beginning of the show, right? So, that's the last, little bit of sort of negative kind of stuff. The good news is we've been there. Everything is done. Everything is optics. We were officially free of the Orion Empire, the Draconis, the Alpha Draconis, the Sakaar Empire, the Nebu, the Mitra, all of the small grays that worked with them. August 21st of last year. So it's been 14 months with being completely free of those nasty beings in every way out of this part of the solar system. So, we've long since got rid of the upper echelon of bad guys, the upper, the mid, even we're even getting rid of the mid lower level. And now it's simply the minions, just the grunts, the ones that don't know shit from anything else. Those are the ones they're scooping up. That's why we're keeping the news lying. It's easier to scoop them up if they don't go running into the crevices and go hiding here, hiding there.
So
Everyone
what
you see,
what you just said is important. So that's why they're allowing the mainstream media to keep doing what they're doing.
absolutely.
Okay.
That's the only reason.
Okay.
They don't see. Look, the minions don't have any intel. They have nobody to give them intel except us. So that's where they are. The upper levels, they were able to ascertain intel from the negative cosmics. They knew as much as we did. They knew as much as our top guys. But once we start chopping them off and sending them, all of a sudden their intel dries up completely. So they're running around like a bunch of rats. Only thing they get to know is from watching us. So the good news is most of them don't maybe necessarily believe us.
Right.
They don't believe that all the bad guys are gone because they still see them on the news, but they're CGI. They're actors, and some of them are real, but they're full on under arrest and being forced to do what we want them to do. So there are three three major flavors there. So anyone you see, you see Obama, Hillary, they're not the real ones. They're either CGI, old films, clone, forced to do what we're saying. We're under full control. We have no worries whatsoever. There's no nuclear weapons of any kind anywhere. The cosmics and galactics made sure of that a long time ago. So we're in a wonderful place, and we're just waiting. We're just waiting for that little switch to be flipped, and
What an
the
uplifting, that's
the
amazing to
RV
hear.
and all kinds of good stuff.
Well, so on that topic, so thanks for sharing that really positive news. On that topic, I've only heard recently that there might be a few different people portraying Juan O Savin. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the word on the street in our belief is there are three of them. Juan is serving an important role in this movie, in this plan, in this program. And yes, he has admitted that he has to be part of the disinformation campaign. He's in geopolitical. He's concerned with things like the election integrity. Okay. He's working with my very good brother, Kevin Hoyt, right now. The two of them went to Orlando. Juan has inserted Kevin because Kevin's skills, his ability, his political background, he's inserted him into real politics, because before they refused to let Kevin be involved in anything. They knew what about him and they just blackballed him from everything. Nope, 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 nope. Well, Juan has got him part of these conferences, this geopolitical conference, the election integrity conference. They have made him, what the hell was it? A new actual party, even though parties they're going by the way of the dinosaur. He's not Democrat, not Republic, not independent, but he is a member of the America First Party. They just created this.
Oh,
So he's in there, shoulder to shoulder with your typical traditional stupid ass politician. And he's being Kevin Hoyt, and he's telling truths, and he's you know what I'm saying? They
yeah.
inserted him to do this. It's a much lower level than we're at, but it's still a necessary level for a lot of these, sheep, normies, whatever. So it's just part of the movie. That's all. And Juan's very important, and he's very mysterious. There are other things to Juan. There are lots of interesting things. I don't want to go into terrible detail with Juan because he's very important, and his secrecy is also important to his particular mission and his safety. So, hey, do your thing, Juan. But you know what? I sure as hell wish you could ease up on the disinformation part. But we love you anyway.
Yeah.
We love you anyway.
Well, he wrote an amazing book, Kid by the Side of the Road, and I think Scott has a copy.
Yeah,
Right?
I've got a copy right there.
Yeah, I just wanted to maybe show,
Well, I'll grab
yeah,
it.
just to show the
Sure, why not?
viewers.
I know he was sending me a copy. I haven't received it yet, but I should any day now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty.
I think I'm going to get Joe to sign this one. It hasn't been signed, but great book. Fantastic.
Yeah, it really is an amazing. It's a piece of art. Is amazing information. Just things about, like, the Titanic. A lot of people have no idea that the Titanic was replaced by the Olympic, and for an insurance reason, and that a few of the people that were on the Olympic that actually sank, that they were against the banking system that came into play in 1913, and that the Titanic, the Olympic, really went down intentionally. And I don't specifically know, what went on that night, and whether there was boats around to rescue people or not. But when you hear that a few of the bankers that ended up creating the system, and a year later just didn't, get on the boat back in 1912, but the other guys did. It's like those are the little things that people have to look at so they can start, the lights can start going on. And like, there's an amazing film called Scientists for 911 Truth. And that's where people can hear from first responders that were at 911 that, planes didn't bring those down, right? So if that's my gauge for people, if they can't even look at 911 being something that happened that was not as it was presented on the mainstream media, how are we going to tell them anything else?
It's just this confirmation bias loop that everybody seems to get stuck in. And I think a lot of that has to do with Maslow's hierarchy, this whole need to belong to something to such a degree that you'll betray yourself and what you're perceiving as true in order to belong. And I think that's detrimental to anybody that engages in it. But unfortunately, that's a big part of
very common,
the human condition.
Yeah, it's tough because, right now, they're trying to weigh how much information can be digested by the normal person, how quickly. And they're being ultra careful. They're being way too careful. They're going too slow, in my opinion. People are a little bit tougher than that. Maybe a few of them that are kind of off their rocker, maybe not, but but Juan O Savin is an amazing wealth of knowledge in every aspect, from biblical to geopolitical to historic the guy knows way more than he lets you on to know.
Yeah,
he knows a shitload about the planet, about space, about the other planets, about ETs. He knows way more than he's really supposed to talk about. And that I respect him for greatly. And I can't wait for him to be able to come out and, let us know, hopefully, who he really is, and be able to share all of his knowledge, because there's a lot of it. And that much I do know for a fact.
Yeah. We're a little over an hour, and I know we're going to have you back. Is there anything that because this is a lot of great information. Do you want to keep going, or do we want to have a part 2 relatively soon? Because I like to not lose people,
Yes.
Yeah.
I understand.
Let's leave it up to Nick.
Yeah, we'll leave it up to Nick.
Well,
is there anything else? Is there anything you want to at least kind of end on, or something you're dying to say, or what? We'll leave it to you.
Well, I've touched on it a little bit here and there, but the important part where we are, and everybody has a part in this. Everybody plays a specific role. Some of us can talk to the early normies, some of us the middle stage normie, some of us the you know what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
So forth and so on. Some of us, like myself, Jason Reed, Katie Rain, and that type of group, we're definitely for the master class. And that's what Shooter calls us, is the master class. We recently developed a team under the direction of the Q team and the Space Force, and we call it the Quantum Advisory Board, and we're wanting to grow this. And basically, all it is to get people unified, to get people willing to look at all the information, not just some that they feel okay with. And if they can get it, they can get it. If not, they may fall off. Now, the genesis of this is what I've already talked about. A lot of egos, a lot of people trying to make money, and a lot of people giving out bad information. A very, very, very prominent 100,000 viewer, platform truther went live saying that he thinks that Q is nothing but a psyop. It's nothing but a bunch of bullshit. And then he said, well, it could be something, but I just haven't put any time into it. You haven't put any time into it? You've been in front of people for 3 years. You've been teaching people things for 3 years, and you haven't had time to put any thought or effort into knowing if Q is real. See, that's just a good example of what they're talking about. We have an obligation, okay? We're not just people sitting up here. We are actually part of the alliance, a part that if we weren't here, this mission probably would not have been successful up until this point, okay? We have an obligation. If we're going to do this, we need to deliver the truth. And we certainly don't need to be giving information that is completely the contrary of the truth. It's very important.
Right.
And Q is very important. Without Q, we would not be here. So that's just an example of where some of us are still today. So if there's anything I want to get across is every single truther out there. You know, if you just talk about just crypto, it's time that you expand your repertoire. Okay, this does not come from Nick. This comes from the Alliance. You know, this comes from people way higher than we in this process. It's time to start looking into other pieces that are very important. And this is maybe most important that I need to end with. This is about our children. Okay. First and foremost, everything else is secondary. Most truthers never, ever mention the children. Okay. Most of them don't. It's a grotesque topic, but it has to be communicated. It has to be. That's why we're here. That's why we have the help of the Galactics, because of what they've done with our kids. And if that's the only thing anyone remembers me saying today is we're rescuing the children. The children have got to be first. They've got to be on all of our lips every time that somebody poo-poos this, says it's, oh, that's bullshit. You know, that's this, that's that. You're crazy. Maybe you should be introduced to the millions and millions of families or parents that had this happen to their children. Or maybe you should see pictures of dump trucks full of dead children with some of their body parts missing because the cabal decided they needed these body parts today, or their organs missing, or their eyes removed. Maybe you should see dump truck fulls of these children and then tell me that it's bullshit. But all of this discussion should be about the children, and the rest, that after we talk about the kids, then we can talk about the rest. But you know, that's my last little bit for the evening.
Well, we appreciate that. I mean, that's a big reason why I got involved in Scott and I will be honest with you. We've watched pretty much everybody as far as truther, not every, but a lot of them. And I think we just felt like we have a voice and we want to interview some of these folks and we can do this in a way that is very welcoming and we're here to talk about the children and to support all kinds of information and that's why we're here. We want to provide an egoless, unbiased platform so people like you can come on and people can hear you. So we really appreciate you being on our show, Nick.
Yeah, next time we can do a little piece on why the children, I mean, why they were everything, why they were the piece, they were the commodity that ran this entire cabal, all the way from the reptilians and their uses for our children to the Satanists, what were their uses for our children, the pedophiles, what were their uses for our children, and so on and so forth. The food industry, the cosmetic industry, all of them used our kids. Okay, so in the future we can, you know, is rated PG as possible, because
sure,
you know, I don't want to paint pictures that, you know, I have pictures in my mind that'll always be burnt in there of seeing these things that are so unspeakable that you can't get them out. You know, people don't maybe need to go quite that far, but by God, they need to know the truth. So, you know, yeah, let's do something in the future. You guys can think of any questions you want to talk about, and we will have some fun answering them.
All right. Anything else, Scott?
Well, of course, but I think I can make it wait till next time. Maybe we'll have a few words after the interview. But thank you so much for being a part of our show, and I'm really looking forward to the next one.
100% my pleasure. You guys, man, we're gonna do some cool things in the future. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Take care, brother.